Good afternoon, everybody. I am redoing this, so this is take two, sort of the whole experience. I'm going to try and do a backup video over here as well, just so that in case it gets deleted again. So I'm waiting for a few people to hop on that I know are coming. If you don't already know me, my name is Jarae Pearson. I'm a holistic health coach. Holistic health is takes into account and advocates for the interconnected nature of our mind, body, and our spirit. And I believe they all work together. So that is what that is all about. Today's topic, we're going to talk again about the dairy controversy. There's, this is a big deal for a lot of people. There's the for dairy, and then there is, the vegan industry as well. So I don't know if it's an industry, but there's the vegan community as well, who are against dairy for a lot of reasons. So that is what I'm talking about today. So I want to focus a lot on the science because the science is really, how we break this down for ourselves, right? And I want you guys to make your own informed, educated decisions. So there's our bodies are super complex. Obviously, our physiology is super complex, as well as there's a lot of chemical elements within dairy itself, and so that alone makes it a little bit challenging to run these studies. And so there's no definitive answer when it comes to dairy. There's just no way really to break it down, and I'm going to explain why. So as well as we also, when we, the studies are all over the place, but and then also you take into account our body's real ability to heal itself, or to at least mitigate some damage when it's healthy, then, those are the things we're concerned about when we're talking about, should we cut dairy completely out? Should we limit it? How should we work this? And so that's what we're going to decide today. I've read dozens of studies on dairy. I've watched probably a dozen different documentaries that take into account inflammation or dairy specifically. And inflammation is the number one health concern when you're considering dairy. Dairy, along with red meat, both cause inflammation and are directly related to heart disease. And heart disease is responsible for approximately 610,000 deaths in a year in the United States. So 1 in 4 deaths in the United States can be attributed to inflammation, or heart disease in particularly. So inflammation is, the studies that have been coming out are definitely showing a correlation between the two, between inflammation and heart disease. So we do need to take that into account. A little more on inflammation. The American diet is generally extraordinarily high in dairy, as well as gluten, and they're often mixed together. So it's a lot of the times it's a cheeseburger or pizza or something like that, that has dairy, as well as other known allergens or other known things that chemicals that trigger responses within our body. And so that is one more thing that makes it even harder to determine if, how much of the inflammation is caused from just the cheese alone, how much of it is caused from, processed meats, as well as the refined grains. So when you take a study looking more at how when dairy's mixed with healthier ingredients like nuts and fruits and vegetables, there's studies that show that dairy actually improved their health. So those are people who aren't mixing it generally with, with the more processed chemicals. All right. I hope you guys are still following me. Say hi when you hop on. And if you see this in a replay, let me know that you watched it in a replay. It's what keeps me going every day. So hormones and processing is also obviously a concern. So hormones, antibiotics, farming additives have been shown to increase a lot of concerns, including early onset puberty, in adolescence, and hormones in milk directly affect our endocrine system. So our own regulating of hormones and how our body physiology plays out, how what responses we're sending out, what signals we're sending out is directly impacted by hormones that are used in some milk. However, all of these things, so the chemicals, the added chemicals, hormones, etc., can be eliminated if you purchase organic dairy products. So there is that. Allergies, there's a few different types of allergies when we're talking about milk products. Lactose intolerance is the one we hear most commonly, and that is the allergy to the sugar that's in the milk. Lactose is the sugar that is in the milk itself. So lactose intolerance means that we can't break down that sugar. And then there's also allergies to the protein caseins in the dairy itself, and there's different types. There's like a letter after each one of the caseins, casein A, casein B, and those you can have a response, an allergic reaction to just one of those or a few of them as well, and they wouldn't be as obviously related to the dairy as if you were completely lactose intolerant. The symptoms show up less severe in some of the casein allergies, and so that is something to take into account. But allergies is another concern. Why are people allergic to it? Should our bodies be ingesting it? This is some of the thought process behind this questioning of dairy here. And then also acidity. So acidity, I was talking about, red meat also causes inflammation. Well, red meat and dairy also create an acidic environment within our bodies. So alkaline body, we've probably heard of this before, that we want to be more alkaline than we do acidic within our bodies. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Bacteria growth within our intestinal wall is one of the main reasons. So the bad bacteria has a tendency to grow a lot better in acidic environment. But so does cancer, and cancer is the big one that there's all the studies going on about right now, because when you remove the acidity from a person's body, cancer is, not able to reproduce and thrive. So this is a big one for people. So acidity, like I was talking about bacteria, for example, with the women that I coach, there's some people have chronic yeast infections, vaginosis, different female, body issues. And a lot of those are related to pH. So I just wanted to mention that if it's something that somebody struggles with, that sometimes you can fix that by shifting gears and eliminating some of the acidic foods that you're ingesting for a time, and then really, bumping up the other ones. I gotta drink some water too. Hi! I'm so excited you made it. All right. So another thing to know about acidity is that when our bodies become, into an acidic environment, it starts pulling the alkaline reserves that it keeps on hand in the form of calcium and magnesium and potassium. And so it's related to bone health as well. So in countries where there is extremely high incidence of dairy, if it's one of the main staples within a diet, those places tend to have really high rates of osteoporosis. So it doesn't, that just kind of goes against the old, wives' tale that drinking milk is what makes your bones strong and whatever. Because we get our calcium from a lot of different sources, including, greens. So, if you were to increase your greens in that, then you would make up for that. So, let's see. Higher rates of cancer. I mentioned that cancer, the studies that are coming out are saying that cancer can't survive in an alkaline body. So that's super huge for me. One of the main reasons that I do barely any dairy or red meat. Wrong too. All right. So yogurt. I was really, I was really impressed or actually surprised, I should say. Let me get myself back together. Yogurt is sort of the exception. And this is, of course, because of the fermentation and the probiotics, right? So, um, I've I've read a lot of studies about yogurt over this last week when I was preparing for this, probably 3 or 4 different studies that I looked at. And Greek yogurt tends to be even healthier as far as higher in protein and less chemicals in a lot of the, store-bought yogurts and things. But, we don't really know in that case, is it the dairy? Is it the probiotics? But having said that, this sort of, if you were to have one type of dairy, go for the yogurt, right? It makes the most sense. So if you have any questions about any of this while we're going along, go ahead and plop them in there. If you were to make your own yogurt with organic milk, like organic whole milk, and make your own yogurt, then that would you probably wouldn't have any negative, side effects from that, other than, dairy is an inflammatory. So that's one of the things. So elimination diet you can do if you're not sure about the casein allergies, like I was just talking about. Since they're so subtle sometimes, you can't really tell if you have an allergy to the casein proteins in milk. So an elimination diet works with that. If you're in my program, Angela, for example, if you are in my program right now, that's what we're essentially doing for the 4 weeks that we're about to start. So you will get to know all about how dairy affects you. So this is kind of how I went about, how I've managed, my dairy intake. It was like a main staple in my life for my whole life until probably about 8 to 10 years ago. And I still love cheese. I still love eating the good cheeses and stuff. But I started by just cutting out milk itself, because that was the biggest way that I was consuming it, was 24 ounces of milk every night. So I cut that out first and started swapping when I cooked, when I baked, and when I cooked meals, swapping out for other milks. And then, we also ate a ton of cottage cheese and sour cream and yogurts and dairy creamers and butter on everything. And so I just started with the regular milk, and then shortly after that was like the cottage cheese. My mindset, our mindset starts shifting, and that's what happened to me. I started shifting my mindset and realizing that it was causing some inflammation and stuff, and I wanted to cut it out. So I did that with cottage cheese and sour cream next. And now we use butter if it's in like a recipe that maybe has, maintains a tradition or something. And then if I'm craving, if I'm craving cheese for a while, I will buy a really good cheese, the organic chunk of cheese. And then I'll eat little bits of it every once in a while with fruit, so that's how I eat my cheese. But it's not in my daily practice. We don't have to get cheese on everything. You can find out which things that you don't really miss cheese on. There's a lot of creamy, like Mexican foods that you can't really tell it's missing when you start taking it out, maybe at first, but you get used to it. Same with like ordering foods. You don't, if you order salads, you can ask for the cheese left off, especially if you're using a ranch dressing. And also, we can work around that. But avocados are creamy for those of us who like avocados in salad, kind of makes up for the cheese. But, another thing we need to take into account is that our body does have a real ability to mitigate a moderate amount of, mistreatment. So I posted this yesterday because it's the truth. A healthy body is going to filter things out that aren't supposed to be there. It's going to support us in a way that, it needs to support us in order to heal. So our body is continually regenerating its cells, the different areas of our body at different rates. So a different organ is going to have cells regenerate, maybe every few weeks or every few months, or like years. The liver takes years, for example. So, if that's encouraging to me, that's like I'm getting a new group of cells every day of my life that I get to start, babying or whatever, taking care of again. And so if we look at it that way, that might help. But it's a true fact. Our body regenerates. But if we are like really continually bombarding our body with chemicals and toxins and doing damage to it, then is it really able to do its job anymore? And I don't think so. And I think that's what's happening. I think that there's just too much of a bombardment going on with the negative stuff, and our body can't heal in between. And so that's why I'm always preaching about the healing first. Because if you can let your body do what it's made to do, we can stay healthy and still, and not be perfect on our nutrition all the time. So just remember that, damaged bodies aren't serving us. It's not doing any good. And so we got to start healing all the way from a cellular level. And that sometimes takes a little bit of time. So spend a little bit of time healing, without the dairy. So here's the thing about our intestinal wall. When it's damaged, dairy inflames it and red meats inflame it. And then it's raw. So the foods that we're eating and texture, when you're healing from autoimmune disease and stuff, so a lot of the times, if the damage in your gut is really bad, you have to really cook down your veggies, and you can't eat really, hard fruits and veggies and things like that. And so, that's something to be aware of as well, that sometimes texture. So when you're mixing these things, when you're mixing an inflammatory, and then you have some leaky gut as well. So chemicals are leaking from your intestinal wall into your bloodstream, and you're eating chemicals. So the chemicals are doing more damage to the inflamed wall, and then chemicals can get into your bloodstream. So dairy, that is when dairy's mixed with other things, not necessarily a good thing, right? When your dairy's mixed with your refined grains that are, that do their own damage, gluten is a well-known allergen as well. That's when we have a lot of the issues. Oh my gosh, you are? That's awesome. Oh, yeah, I know. It's a challenge. This is all a challenge, but we've got this. Like it's like I said, like boot camp, nutrition boot camp. But like I said, once we heal from that point, then we're able to manage, the occasional ingestion of questionable foods and stuff. So it does get a little bit easier once you get through that. So, remember that I'm a good resource for you guys. You can always come to me with questions, motivation, inspiration, whatever it might be. I only have one one-on-one coaching spot open for February, but I've got some other things coming up. I have a free free week of healing, the 1st through the 7th in the group. I've also got a 3-day healthy cooking strategy course, the 4th through the 6th. That one is only $33. And then I've also got an intensive 9-week coming up. It's a 9-week nutrition. It's called Mission Mend My Gut. And that one is going to be all about gut healing and going through it together, doing a autoimmune protocol nutrition plan for 8 of those 9 weeks. So lots of ways. I will put a link in the description to any of those things that you might need, or in the comments. But I just kind of want to reiterate that dairy, in my opinion, it shouldn't be a regularly consumed thing because of the inflammation and then the prevalence of coronary disease. Because I know so many people who have passed away in the last couple of years of heart disease or heart attacks when they're young, like 41 years and younger. A few friends, 2 different friends, 3 different friends had husbands die under the age of 40 of heart attacks within a year. People that I knew pretty well. One of them was 38, one of them was 40, and one of them I think was also 40. So right about that age, which I'm 40, almost 41 in a few weeks here. So it's something I take seriously, and I harp on my husband about, and heart health, and inflammation. It also inflames our arteries. So when you're talking about pumping blood, If we're really heavy on the dairy and stuff and our arteries are inflamed, then potentially the cholesterol will be doing some damage as well and sticking in the cracks and crevices and all that. So just, something to think about, that our bodies, get them healthy, let them do what they're supposed to do and help us out. So just, I'm always talking moderation, everything in moderation, but we have to heal first. So heal, then readjust your nutritional lifestyle to one that's manageable. So, and that is what I talk about, 80-20 nutrition. If you've ever wondered, if you've seen some of my 80-20 stuff, that's what I'm talking about, is 80% healthy at least, and then 20% questionable stuff once our gut is healed. So, all right. You guys have any other questions before I let you off of here? And so join up in the group, the Holistic Nutrition group, for the week of healing. That is a week of holistic nutrition healing, and I provide a sort of plan so that you can follow it really easy, but still eat the things that you like. So, all right, you guys, holding space for you. Awesome that you were able to show up here live. And if you catch it in a replay, please let me know that you saw it in a replay. I hope that this helps everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.